In September 2022, my wife Savannah and I moved from Indiana to Colorado. After exploring our new home for a bit, we were ready to go on our first backpacking trip since moving. But first, we wanted a road trip to an iconic Colorado landmark. Alright, we're about 3.5 hours from our destination. I got Savannah here next to me, but she just got off work, so I give her about 10 minutes before she crashes. But we got our coffee, so we're ready to hit the road. After a scenic drive, we stopped at a ticket office and boarded a bus.
With such force and momentum that it jumps across the creek and the road. And if you look at the hillside onto your right.
After a short bus ride, we arrived at our destination, the famous Maroon Bells. This is like absolutely the best view I've ever seen. Savannah went ahead because it's taking too many pictures, so I'm gonna try to catch back up with her. And we could not have timed this better. The trees are absolutely insane. Like, I'm just struggling how to put it into words. Most people know that the Rocky Mountains are made up mostly of granite and metamorphic rocks. However, what makes the Maroon Bells special is that they're composed of sedimentary rocks, mostly sandstone and mudstone. The sediment that makes up those rocks were deposited over 300 million years ago. That's way older than the current modern-day Rocky Mountains. During that time, a separate mountain building event created the ancestral Rocky Mountains, where we had high peaks to the west and to the east. And in our current location was a basin where sediment accumulated. It wasn't until 250 million years later that the Maroon Bells Formation was uplifted to its current elevation. Evidence for this story lies in the rocks themselves, whose sediment contains features that are indicative of alluvial fans, rivers, floodplains, and shallow seas. We took in the view for some time, but when the sun started to go down, we headed back to the bus and we were on our way back down the valley. All right, so we're back in the parking garage and oh my goodness, that was amazing. We saw the Maroon Bells in probably the best conditions you could see them in. Fall colors were amazing. The snow on the peaks were amazing. It was a Wednesday, so there was hardly any crowds. But we're starving, so we're gonna go get some food now and then check into the hotel. And tomorrow we're gonna start our backcountry hike. So, see you tomorrow. Alright, so it's about 7 in the morning and we're on our way to Conundrum Trailhead. Today we're going to be doing the Conundrum Creek Trail. At the end of the trail are geothermal hot springs. So, pretty excited about that. It's about 9 miles to the hot springs. We'll camp there overnight and then it'll be 9 miles back to the car. Just before the trailhead, we spotted a moose gliding through the aspen brush, and we watched him fade away into the thicket. Okay, about 15 feet from the trailhead, and we already see a massive bull moose. That was exciting, also a little terrifying. That was incredible. It was only my fourth moose, right? Yeah, fourth moose I've ever seen. So that was pretty special. Hopefully we don't run into him on trail, but pretty awesome nonetheless. After the excitement of seeing the moose, it was time to start the trail. We strapped on our gear and headed out. It was a cold morning, but we found comfort in the glow of the rising sun on the peaks above. So there's where we parked, and that moose is somewhere in that brush. Are you excited? Cold? All I can say is that those hot springs are gonna feel amazing whenever we get to camp. Seeing snowy peaks in the distance excited us, and we eagerly pressed on. So I read online that this area is prone to avalanches during the winter. And you can see that evidence for that here with all these downed trees. We then ran into a herd of deer camouflaged amongst the brush and logs. Hi there. Are you gonna let me pass? Okay, we've decided to go on the avalanche logs so as not to disturb the deer. But it's a little tricky stepping over this stuff. It's like a giant beaver dam.
Alright, well they're gone now.
Savannah fell and spooked them, and now they ran off trail, so I guess that worked. With the deer moved off trail, we continued on and noticed more traces of past avalanches. Hang on, look at these aspens.
Yeah.
Look how bent they are. I wonder if that's due to avalanches as well.
Look, a little hornet's nest.
Oh, really?
A little one. Looks empty.
Turns out that this nest actually belongs to a type of paper wasp. So what we're stepping on is actually the Maroon Formation. The same rocks that are at the top of Maroon Peak. You can even see that the Maroon Formation makes up these cliffs as well. Alright, so Savannah just asked a great question about why the Fountain Formation is so red. And if you remember what I said yesterday at Maroon Bells, the sediment that makes up the Maroon Formation was shed off of the ancestral Rocky Mountains. That primordial range was composed mostly of granite, and one of the primary minerals in granite is potassium feldspar, which is usually pink. So a lot of the sediment grains in the Maroon Formation are from that pink potassium feldspar. And also oxidation plays a role as well, as some of the more iron-rich minerals start to rust over time. After some more research, I learned that the iron oxidation plays a larger role than I implied here. We continued on and hiked through a near-frozen world. All right, we just ran into first group of people who were staying at the springs last night, and they said right in the middle, hot water is pouring straight up out of the rock or out of the ground. So, super excited. The trail then took us through groves of aspens and underneath tall evergreens. We also passed what appeared to be an old shed. Then we ran into something truly exciting.
Get vertical.
There's a moose right there. He went somewhere down in here. He's making noises. He's getting a little close. Back up, back up, back up. Back up. My heart's beating. Going around. Going around. Ooh, okay, well, that was crazy. He was like 100 yards away from us, and then suddenly he was like 20 yards away from us. My heart's pounding. Savannah still wants to see him. That was exciting though, but terrifying. Literally not 15 seconds before that, Savannah points down into that meadow and was like, man, that'd be a perfect spot for a moose. Lo and behold, there's a big bull just sitting there. I think the scariest part was that we made our presence known and he still came towards us, and we tried to go around and he kind of turned back towards us. So he was definitely interested in what we were doing. If you can't tell already, I'm terrified of meese. Love to see them from a car.
Of what?
Not a meese. Love to see them from a car. Not while hiking. Nope. Yo bear. With the moose behind us, we hiked on. Finally, the sun came over the ridge, and with it, the valley seemed to spring to life. After some time, we took a moment to rest and have some snacks. What you got there? Vegan jerky. All right. And then we were off again, this time refreshed from the light of the late morning. looking back on the valley is awesome. Colors are beautiful. All right, we just passed campsites 17 through 20. So it's a good sign that we're getting close. We, however, are campsite 6. So still a little ways to go. But we're getting pretty close. The trail really hasn't been all that challenging. It's been a pretty gentle slope. It's really just a matter of how heavy your pack is and just going the distance. Oh, this looks cool up here. Check this out. That's pretty cool. 15. Getting closer. We then passed another old cabin. And when the trail became muckier, we could feel that we were getting close to the end. All right, we made it to the hot springs. They're just right down there, just out of view. But we're gonna go set up camp first, and then we'll head down there. It's hard work getting up here, but at least you got some nice views on the way back to your campsite. Campsite 6. Home sweet home for the night. Oh yeah, this isn't bad at all. Got nice views of the valley. Plenty of space for a tent. This looks great. Oh man. Well, it feels so good to take that off. Without wasting much time, I began to set up camp. All right, tent's all set up. Savannah's in it right now, crashing. See if we can see her. How's it feel?
Good.
And then, yeah, we're just kind of taking it easy right now, trying to recover our strength before we go to the hot springs. Let me give you a tour around camp. Got these nice, lovely pine trees, all our stuff laid out. Over here it looks like we could get some water, and then check out this view right on our doorstep. Amazing. Hard to believe we came up all that way. All right, so after relaxing at camp for a little bit, time to head down to the springs finally. Springs or no springs, you cannot beat that view. Our tired and sore bodies were immediately refreshed in the spring, and we celebrated the end of a long day with some drinks. Then we drifted into a quiet peacefulness. All right, so we're back up from the hot springs, back at camp, having dinner. We're having some vegan chili. Pretty good, pretty warm. The hot springs were awesome. Way warmer than expected. Had to be at least 95 degrees, if not more. What did you think? Anything to say?
It was way more. It was warmer than our barbecue.
Yeah, okay. Savannah says it was warmer than that. But super fun. There's some other folks down there, really nice people. And I think we're gonna go back down there later this evening. But first we're gonna have our dinner and possibly some dessert. We'll see. We enjoyed our dinner, and then we went back down for a second round in the springs. All right, so we ended up going back to the hot springs for sunset and stayed there for a couple hours. Stayed in the springs until after dark. Finally, we braved the cold and ran back up here to our campsite, and now we're trying to get warm as best as we can. We've got something to help me out here, a little whiskey. I'm sure that'll keep me warm. If it doesn't, I got Savannah's bright personality. She's currently burrowed in her sleeping bag like a little marmot, so she's getting warm. But yeah, it was an awesome day today. It was truly something special, and I think I'm gonna enjoy my drink and then go to bed, and I'll see you tomorrow. Alright, it's about 8:30 in the morning now, and on my way to get our food from our bear box. Had an absolutely frigid night last night. I could still see the moon through our tent, and I told myself, I was like, alright, I'm not going to check the watch until I can't see the moon anymore. So that's what I did. And then when I finally couldn't see it, I checked the time and it was about 2:30. I was like, okay, it's the coldest part of the night. If I can get through this, then I can get through the rest of the night. But yeah, I ended up surviving, but I don't know what it is. Probably because we absolutely froze ourselves running from the hot springs to the tent, and that's probably why it was so cold trying to sleep. Oh well, it's behind us now, and man, what a morning to wake up to. It's just perfect out here. When I returned to camp, Savannah was awake, so I brewed some coffee and we talked about our trip so far.
Toes and fingers were definitely.
I was not
Definitely.
good last night. I sprinted up the hill.
I know, you left me, and I was like, it was so cold, and I was like speed walking. I was like, what if I like my toes fall off or I can't feel my feet, and then I fall, and then die, like it went down a rock? I mean, no idea.
Well, my plan was, all I need to do is get my wet shorts off, put on dry clothes, and then I'll go back and check on you and see if you're still alive.
No, you wouldn't.
But man, though, like, watching the moon come over the mountains and like light up the valley while you're in the hot spring, I mean, that was special.
Yeah, in the sunset.
I don't know if I'll ever experience that ever again, but I'm glad we did. After coffee, we set about breaking camp. These are the shorts I wore in the hot spring and left them outside. Listen. Yeah, they're quite frozen. After everything was packed up, we took one last look at the valley and headed off. Goodbye, lovely hot springs. You will be missed. I think we can safely say we'll definitely be back here. Definitely. As we hiked back to the trailhead, I reflected on the absurdity of our trip. The goal of the hike was to reach a hot spring, a tiny pool of water deep in the Colorado backcountry. We braved the cold and fearsome moose to reach that tiny pool, that small refuge from the unforgiving wilderness around us. We could have just stayed home and been much warmer and safer, but if we had done that, I never would have seen the sunrise that day. I would have been too comfortable to look out the window and see the world around me. The snowy mountains and golden aspens would have been nothing more than an idea to me, rather than what is now a loving memory. Maybe just as absurd is that there were others we met on the same pilgrimage as us. Strangers brought together in search of a sacred warmth issuing from the mountain. Maybe, even in our everyday lives, we're on that same kind of journey. We're all looking for a warm spot in the wilderness, free from trouble and surrounded by community. Yet the irony is that the way towards that safe place is fraught with trouble, and perhaps even loneliness. But maybe it's important to be aware of this, so that we can recognize when someone else's pack is just a little too heavy, or their feet a little too sore to keep going. In those cases, that's when it's important to remember trips like this, that we're all stumbling through the wilderness, searching for an infinite warmth. The good news is that the sanctuary we're looking for is there, if we keep going just a little further. Maybe the search for that sanctuary is why we went on this hike. Maybe that's why we moved to Colorado. back to the car. Overall, incredible trip. Only thing left to do is drive back home. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.